Camille Harris saved Ethan Cole's life at a gala, but that one act pulled her into a world of danger, betrayal, and conspiracy. As love sparks between them, can they overcome enemies lurking in the shadows? Before we get into the story, comment. Below where in the world you are watching from today, Camille Harris rushed through the busy kitchen of the Grand Plaza Hotel, adjusting her temporary staff badge. She wasn't used to working at fancy events like this, but the extra money would help with her brother Marcus's medical bills. At 28, she already carried more responsibility than most people her age. Remember, keep the drinks flowing. And smile, the catering manager told the staff. These people donated thousands of dollars for their seats tonight. Camille nodded, picked up her serving tray and headed into the ballroom. The shine of crystal chandeliers nearly blinded her. Women in designer dresses worth more than her yearly salary chatted with men in expensive suits. She felt out of place, but she had a job to do. Just 4 more hours, she whispered to herself. 4 more hours and another chunk of Marcus's bills gets paid. She was making her 3rd round with champagne when she first saw him, Ethan Cole. Everyone knew who he was. His face had been on the cover of Business Weekly 3 times this year. At 38, he was one of the youngest CEOs to make the Fortune 500 list. He stood tall in a perfectly fitted tuxedo talking to a group of businessmen. That Cole fellow, an older woman near Camille whispered to her friend. They say he started with nothing and built an empire, but he's made plenty of enemies along the way. Camille tried not to listen to gossip as she worked, but something about Ethan Cole caught her attention. Unlike the other wealthy guests who barely noticed the staff, he thanked each server who brought him a drink or appetizer. She hadn't expected that from someone so powerful. The night was going smoothly until Camille overheard something that made her blood run cold. She was clearing glasses from an empty table in a quiet corner when 2 men in dark suits started talking in low voices. "Everything set?" the first man asked. "Yeah, the waiter knows which glass to give him. Cole won't know what hit him," the second man replied. "Just make sure the drink gets to him." Camille's hands started shaking. Were they really planning to poison Ethan Cole? She looked around the room and spotted a waiter she didn't recognize heading toward Ethan with a drink on his tray. She had 2 choices: walk away and keep her job, or get involved and risk everything. Marcus's face flashed in her mind. Her little brother had taught her that doing nothing when someone was in danger was the same as hurting them yourself. "I can't let this happen," she whispered. Camille moved through the crowd as quickly as she could without drawing attention. Her heart was pounding so hard she could barely hear the classical music playing. The waiter was just a few steps away from Ethan now. "Mr. Cole," Camille said, stepping between Ethan and the waiter. She lowered her voice. "Don't drink that. I overheard something. I think it's poisoned." Ethan stared at her, his blue eyes sharp and suspicious. The waiter stood frozen, the drink still on his tray. For a terrible moment, Camille thought Ethan would ignore her warning. Instead, he smoothly took the glass and turned to his security guard. "Have this tested," he said quietly. The guard nodded and disappeared with the drink. "Who are you?" Ethan asked Camille, his voice low and intense. "Just a temp worker," she replied, her hands still shaking. "I heard 2 men talking about making sure that drink got to you. I couldn't just say nothing." Before Ethan could respond, his security guard returned, his face grim. He whispered something in Ethan's ear. Ethan's expression hardened. "You just saved my life," he said to Camille. "What's your name?" "Camille Harris." "Well, Camille Harris, I need you to come with me. Security will want to know exactly what you heard." The next hour passed in a blur. Camille sat in a private office, telling Ethan's security team everything she'd overheard. The police arrived and she had to tell her story again. The 2 men she'd overheard had disappeared before they could be found. "Miss Harris," Ethan said, after the police left, "you took a huge risk warning me. Why?" Camille met his gaze. "Because it was the right thing to do. I'm a nurse. I can't stand by and watch someone get hurt." "A nurse?" Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Then why are you working as event staff?" Camille hesitated, then decided honesty was the best policy. "My brother needs expensive medical treatments. I pick up extra work when I can." Something in Ethan's expression changed. He studied her for a long moment, then made a decision. "I need someone I can trust right now," he said. "Someone who's proven they'll do the right thing, even when it's hard. I want to hire you as my personal assistant while we investigate who's behind this." "Mr. Cole, I don't know anything about being a personal assistant. You know how to be honest and brave, that's all I need right now." He named a salary that made Camille's eyes widen, plus full medical benefits that would cover your brother. Camille thought about Marcus, about the stack of medical bills on her kitchen table, but she also thought about the danger. Someone had just tried to kill this man. "It could be dangerous," Ethan said, reading her thoughts, "but I'll make sure you're protected. What do you say, Camille? Will you help me find out who wants me dead?" Camille took a deep breath. Her life was about to change completely, she could feel it. But looking at Ethan Cole's determined face, she knew there was only one answer she could give. "Yes," she said, "I'll help you." Neither of them knew it then, but that one word would start them down a path that would change both their lives forever. As they left the hotel that night, Camille couldn't shake the feeling that she'd just stepped into a world she didn't understand. But something about Ethan Cole made her want to be brave enough to face whatever came next. Camille walked into the towering glass building that housed Cole Enterprises, clutching her new security badge. It had been 3 days since the charity gala, and everything in her life had changed. She'd taken a leave of absence from her nursing job and called in every favor she could to make sure Marcus's care would continue while she adjusted to her new schedule. "Good morning, Miss Harris," the security guard said. "Mr. Cole is expecting you on the top floor." The elevator ride to the 50th floor gave Camille time to doubt herself. What did she know about working for a CEO? She was a nurse who picked up extra shifts to make ends meet, not some fancy corporate assistant. Ethan was waiting when the elevator doors opened. He looked different in his office than he had at the gala, more intense, if that was possible. His suit was perfectly pressed, his expression serious. "Camille," he said, "come with me, there's a lot we need to discuss." His office was bigger than her entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows looked out over the city, and a massive desk dominated one wall. But what caught Camille's attention was the bulletin board covered in photos and notes. "This is everything we know about the attempt on my life," Ethan explained. The drink contained a poison that would have looked like a heart attack. "Professional job. Whoever's behind this has resources." Camille studied the board. "Have you thought about who might want to hurt you?" "I've made enemies building this company," Ethan said, "but trying to kill me, that takes a special kind of hate." He turned to face her. "I need to know I can trust you, Camille, really trust you." "You can," she said simply. "I wouldn't be here if I was involved in trying to hurt you." Ethan studied her face for a long moment. "No, you wouldn't. You're probably the only person I'm sure isn't involved." He sighed. "That's why I need your help. You'll be with me in meetings, taking notes. Watch how people react, what they say. Fresh eyes might see something I'm missing. What about your regular assistant, Sarah?" Ethan's jaw tightened. "She called in sick the day after the gala. Hasn't been back since." Before Camille could respond, a tall man with Ethan's same blue eyes burst into the office. "Little brother, I heard you hired new staff without consulting me." "James," Ethan said coolly. "This is Camille Harris. She's replacing Sarah." James Cole looked Camille up and down, his smile not reaching his eyes. "Interesting choice. No corporate experience, I assume?" "She saved my life," Ethan said sharply. "That's all the experience I need right now." James held up his hands. "Hey, your call. Just remember, the board meeting is tomorrow. They'll want answers about the Anderson contract." After James left, Camille noticed how tense Ethan had become. "Your brother seems concerned about me being here." "James thinks he knows what's best for everyone," Ethan said. "Especially me, don't worry about him." He checked his watch. "We have a meeting in 10 minutes with the department heads. Ready?" The next few hours were a crash course in corporate politics. Camille sat quietly, taking notes as executives discussed projects and profits. She noticed how some of them stared at her when they thought she wasn't looking. Others completely ignored her, like she was part of the furniture. One woman in particular caught her attention, Victoria Shaw, the head of finance. Every time someone mentioned the charity gala or Ethan's new security measures, Victoria's hand would tighten on her pen. After the meeting, Camille followed Ethan back to his office. Does Victoria Shaw have access to your schedule? Would she have known you'd be at the gala? Ethan looked surprised. Yes, all department heads do. Why? She seemed nervous when people talked about what happened, and she kept looking at her phone under the table. Victoria's been with the company for 15 years, Ethan said, but he wrote something on the bulletin board. Still, good catch. Keep watching. The rest of the day passed in a blur of meetings and phone calls. By evening, Camille's feet were killing her. She wasn't used to wearing heels all day. Cars waiting to take you home, Ethan said as she gathered her things. I've assigned security to watch your apartment. Don't go anywhere without letting them know. Is that really necessary? Someone tried to poison me, Camille. Until we know who and why, we have to assume everyone connected to me is at risk. That night, Camille sat in her small apartment, looking at a picture of her and Marcus. Her brother was smiling despite the hospital bed he was in, always trying to be brave. What have I gotten myself into? She whispered. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You should have kept your mouth shut at the gala. Camille's hands shook as she called Ethan. I'll have someone trace it, he said after she read him the message. Pack a bag. You're not staying there tonight. Where am I supposed to go? My place. I have plenty of room, and it's the most secure building in the city. Mr. Cole, I can't. Ethan, he interrupted. After today, I think you can call me Ethan. And yes, you can. I'm not letting anything happen to you, Camille. You risked everything to save my life. Now let me protect yours. 20 minutes later, a sleek black car pulled up outside her building. The security guard helped her with her bag and drove her to a part of the city she'd only seen in magazines. Ethan's penthouse took up the top 2 floors of a luxury building with security everywhere. The guest room is upstairs, Ethan said when she arrived. My room's down the hall if you need anything. Camille looked around the tastefully decorated space. This is really too much. Someone just threatened you, Ethan said firmly. Nothing is too much when it comes to keeping you safe. His expression softened. Get some rest, Camille. Tomorrow's going to be another long day. Lying in bed that night, in sheets that probably cost more than her monthly rent, Camille thought about how much her life had changed in just a few days. She'd gone from serving drinks to working for one of the most powerful men in the city. And now she was sleeping, in his home. But as she drifted off to sleep, it wasn't the luxury or the danger that filled her mind. It was the way Ethan had looked at her when he said her name, the way his eyes had softened just for a moment. Don't be silly, she told herself. He's your boss, your very rich, very complicated boss, who someone wants dead. But her heart wasn't listening to reason anymore, and somewhere deep down she knew that this was just the beginning of something that would change her life forever. Camille woke up to the smell of coffee. For a moment she forgot where she was. Then she remembered the threat, Ethan insisting she stay at his penthouse, the strange new turn her life had taken. She found Ethan in the kitchen, already dressed for work in a dark blue suit. He was reading something on his tablet and frowning. Morning, he said without looking up. Sleep okay? Yes, thank you. Camille poured herself coffee from what looked like a very expensive machine. Any news about the text? Security traced it to a burner phone. Dead end. He finally looked at her, his expression serious. The board meeting's in 2 hours. I need you there. Are you sure? Won't the board members be suspicious of some stranger taking notes? Let them be suspicious. Ethan's voice was firm. I trust you more than anyone in that building right now. At the office, Camille could feel the tension as soon as they stepped off the elevator. James Cole was waiting by Ethan's office, looking annoyed. The board's asking questions about your new assistant, James said, barely glancing at Camille. They're worried you're not thinking clearly after the gala incident. The gala incident was an attempt on my life, Ethan snapped. And Camille stays, end of discussion. The board meeting was held in a large conference room with a view of the city. 12 people sat around a massive table, all of them staring at Camille as she took her seat next to Ethan. Victoria Shaw was there, still looking nervous. She kept checking her phone under the table, just like yesterday. But today, Camille noticed something else. Victoria and James kept exchanging glances when they thought no one was watching. Now, said Richard Porter, the board chairman, about This attempt on your life, Ethan. The police have found nothing. Perhaps it's time to move on, focus on business. Someone tried to poison me, Ethan said calmly. And instead of being concerned, you want to move on. We're all concerned. James cut in smoothly. But the Anderson contract needs attention. They're threatening to pull out. The Anderson contract can wait, Ethan said. Finding out who wants me dead comes first. Victoria cleared her throat. Actually, we can't wait on Anderson. They've given us 48 hours to sign or they walk. She slid a folder across the table. They want you to personally oversee the deal in Chicago. Camille watched Ethan's face carefully. Something wasn't right about this. Chicago? Ethan asked. When? Tomorrow, Victoria said. Their CEO insists on meeting you face to face. After the meeting back in Ethan's office, Camille couldn't keep quiet anymore. Don't go to Chicago, Ethan looked up from his computer. What? It feels wrong, Camille said. Victoria was so insistent about it, and she and your brother kept looking at each other during the meeting. Plus, this comes right after someone tried to kill you. Ethan was quiet for a moment. I had the same feeling. But Anderson is $1 billion deal. If I don't go, we could lose everything. Better than losing your life. Their eyes met and something passed between them. Concern, understanding, maybe something more. Ethan stood up and walked to the window. What about your brother? He asked suddenly. Have you checked on him today? I called the hospital this morning. He's doing okay. Ethan turned back to face her. Go see him, take the afternoon off. I have some calls to make about this Chicago situation. At the hospital, Marcus was sitting up in bed, looking better than he had in weeks. Sis, he grinned. The nurse told me you got a new job? Camille sat on the edge of his bed. Yeah, it's complicated. Complicated like working for the richest guy in the city? Marcus wiggled his eyebrows. The nurses showed me his picture in a magazine. He's not bad looking. Marcus, it's not like that. Someone tried to hurt him, and I'm helping figure out who. Marcus's face turned serious. Be careful, sis. Rich people's problems are dangerous. I know, but I have to help. Camille paused, not sure how to explain. He's not what I expected. He's kind, and he really cares about his company and his employees. Sounds like someone has a crush, Marcus teased. Stop it, but Camille felt herself blushing. He's my boss, that's all. When she got back to the penthouse that evening, she found Ethan in his home office, surrounded by papers. I've been looking into Victoria Shaw's background, he said without preamble. She's been moving money around, small amounts so it wouldn't be noticed, and guess where it's going? Where? A company owned by James. Ethan ran a hand through his hair. My own brother might be involved in trying to kill me. Camille sat down heavily in a chair. What are you going to do? I'm going to Chicago. What? But, listen, Ethan held up a hand. I'm going to Chicago, but not the way they expect. I need to figure out what they're planning. He looked at her intently. Will you come with me? To Chicago? I need someone I can trust watching my back. His voice softened. I need you, Camille. Those words sent a shiver through her. The way he was looking at her made her heart beat faster. Okay, she said, but we need to be careful. Always. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Pack a bag. We leave tonight, quietly. Let them think I'm taking the morning flight. As Camille packed, she thought about what Marcus had said about rich people's problems being dangerous. He was right, but looking at Ethan, seeing the weight he carried, she knew she couldn't walk away. Later that night, as their private plane took off, Camille watched Ethan staring out the window. He looked tired, worried, and somehow younger than usual. Try to rest, she said softly. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. He turned to look at her, and in the dim light of the cabin, his eyes were intense. Thank you, Camille, for everything. She wanted to tell him it was okay, that she'd do anything to help him, but the words stuck in her throat because she knew they weren't just about helping anymore. Somewhere along the way, her feelings had become complicated, dangerous. As the plane carried them through the dark sky, Camille knew they were flying into more than just a business deal. They were flying into a trap, and their only advantage was that the people setting it didn't know they knew. She just hoped it would be enough to keep them both alive. Chicago was cold and windy when their plane landed at midnight. Instead of going to the luxury hotel where Ethan was supposed to stay, they checked into a small business hotel under false names. Ethan had thought of everything. They even had disguises ready. "The meeting with Anderson isn't until 2, Ethan said as they settled into their adjoining rooms. "That gives us time to do some digging." Camille sat on the edge of her bed looking at her phone. "I got another text from that number. Hope you enjoy Chicago. It might be your last trip." Ethan's face hardened. "Show me." He studied the message, his jaw tight. "They know we're here. Victoria must have someone watching the airports. What do we do now? We stick to the plan. But first..." He pulled out his laptop and started typing. "I'm having security check on your brother. If they're threatening you, Marcus could be in danger too." Camille's heart stopped. She hadn't even thought about that. "Oh God, Marcus." "Is fine," Ethan said quickly, reading something on his screen. "I've had 2 guards watching him since you started working for me. No one's been near his room except hospital staff." Tears filled Camille's eyes. "You've been protecting my brother all this time?" "Of course." Ethan looked surprised. "You're risking your life to help me. Keeping Marcus safe is the least I could do." In that moment, looking at him, Camille felt something shift in her heart. This powerful man who everyone thought was cold and distant had been quietly protecting her brother without even telling her. The next morning, they put their plan into action. Ethan went to a coffee shop near the Anderson offices, wearing glasses, and a different suit than usual. Camille, dressed in business clothes with her hair styled differently, went into the building first. She had a fake ID badge that identified her as an IT consultant. The security guard barely glanced at it before waving her through. Following Ethan's instructions, she found Victoria Shaw's temporary office on the 3rd floor. "Just act like you belong," Ethan had told her. "Most people won't question someone who looks confident." He was right. No one stopped her as she walked through the offices. Victoria's door was locked, but Camille had learned a few tricks in the past week. Within minutes, she was inside. The office was small but neat. Victoria's laptop was closed on the desk. Camille pulled out the small device Ethan had given her and plugged it into the laptop. Just like he'd shown her, she turned it on and waited for the light to turn green. "What are you doing?" Camille's heart stopped. James Cole stood in the doorway, his face thunderous. I'm from IT, Camille stammered. "Just doing a security check on all the computers." "Drop the act," James snarled. "I know who you are. Did my brother send you to spy on us?" He stepped into the office and closed the door. Camille backed away, her hand closing around the phone in her pocket. "You've caused enough trouble," James said, moving closer. "The gala was supposed to be perfect. Quick and clean, no trace back to us, but you had to play hero." "Why?" Camille's voice shook. "He's your brother." "For he's a fool," James spat. "He inherited half the company when he was barely 30, and what does he do? Wastes money on worker benefits, environmental projects, charity." His face twisted. "That money should have been mine. I'm the oldest. I know how to run a real business. By killing your own brother. By removing an obstacle. Victoria and I had it all planned. After Ethan's tragic accident, I'd take control. The Anderson contract would make us billions. But you..." He reached for her. Camille ducked under his arm and ran for the door. But James was faster. He grabbed her arm, spinning her around. "No more interference," he growled. Suddenly, the door burst open. Ethan stood there, flanked by 2 police officers. "Let her go, James." James shoved Camille away. "Little brother, right on time." "We heard everything," Ethan said coldly. "The police have been listening since you walked in. It's over." "Over?" James laughed. "You think Victoria and I were working alone? The board's been planning this for months. They're meeting right now to vote you out." "No, they're not." Ethan's voice was steel. "Because while you were here threatening my assistant, federal agents were arresting Victoria and 3 board members in New York. We found the money trails, the fake accounts, everything." James's face went white. "You're lying. Check your phone. It should be all over the news by now." As if on cue, James's phone started ringing. He pulled it out, saw something on the screen, and seemed to collapse in on himself. The police moved forward with handcuffs. "James Cole, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder." Camille barely heard the rest. Her legs were shaking so badly she had to sit down. Ethan was immediately at her side. "Are you okay? Did he hurt you?" She shook her head. "I'm fine, just scared." "I'm so sorry," Ethan said softly. "I never should have put you in danger." "You didn't. I chose to help." She looked up at him. "How did you know to come in when you did?" "The device you plugged into Victoria's laptop wasn't just copying files. It was broadcasting everything in the room." His hand found hers. "When I heard him threaten you, I've never been so scared in my life." The way he was looking at her made her breath catch. His hand was warm around hers, and she could feel her heart pounding. A police officer cleared his throat. "Mr. Cole, we need your statement." The moment broke. Ethan squeezed her hand once before letting go. "Of course, and I'll be pressing charges against everyone involved." Hours later, they were back on the plane to New York. The news was full of stories about the attempted corporate takeover and assassination plot. 4 board members had been arrested, along with Victoria and several others. James was facing multiple charges. "What happens now?" Camille asked quietly. "Now I rebuild my company, find people I can trust." Ethan looked exhausted but relieved. "The hard part will be facing all the press. At least you're alive to face it." "Thanks to you." He turned to face her fully. "Camille, I know you only took this job temporarily to help solve this mystery, but would you consider staying? Not as a temporary assistant, but as my full partner in running the company." Camille stared at him. "What? But I don't know anything about business." "You know about people. You see things others miss. You're brave and honest and—" He paused. "And I don't want to lose you." The words hung in the air between them, heavy, with meaning. Camille knew this was more than a job offer. The way Ethan was looking at her, the way her heart was racing, this was about something much deeper. "I'll stay," she said softly, "on one condition." "Name it." "We figure out this thing between us, because it's not just business anymore, is it?" Ethan's smile was the most genuine she'd ever seen from him. "No," he said, taking her hand again, "it's not just business at all." As the plane flew them home through the night sky, Camille thought about how much her life had changed since that night at the gala. She'd walked into danger and found courage she didn't know she had. She'd helped save a good man from betrayal. And somewhere along the way, she'd found something she wasn't even looking for, a chance at love. The morning after they returned from Chicago, every newspaper in New York had the story splashed across their front pages. "Cole Enterprises scandal, CEO targeted by family," read one. "Brother versus brother, corporate betrayal exposed," screamed another. Camille sat in Ethan's kitchen reading the headlines while he made coffee. It felt strangely normal despite everything that had happened. "The press is going crazy," she said. "They're calling you the CEO who survived. They're calling you the mystery woman who saved him," Ethan replied, sliding a coffee cup toward her. "Someone leaked a photo of us at the gala." Sure enough, there was a grainy picture of the moment. She'd warned him about the poisoned drink. The newspapers were full of speculation about who she was. "I should go see Marcus," Camille said. "He's probably worried sick after seeing all this." "I'll drive you," Ethan offered. "We need to talk about your new position at the company anyway." At the hospital, Marcus was sitting up in bed, surrounded by newspapers. "Sis," he exclaimed when she walked in. "You're on every front page, and you must be Mr. Cole," he added, as Ethan followed Camille into the room. "Please, call me Ethan." He shook Marcus's hand. "Your sister is an incredible woman." "Don't I know it?" Marcus grinned. "She's been taking care of me since our parents died. Never thought she'd end up saving a millionaire too." "Billionaire, actually," Ethan corrected with a small smile. "And speaking of taking care of people, I took the liberty of having my medical team look at your case, Marcus. They think there's a new treatment that could help." Camille's head snapped up. "What?" "It's experimental but promising, and completely covered by the company's medical insurance, which you now have as a full employee." Marcus's eyes went wide. "Sis, you're taking the job, right?" Camille looked at Ethan, who was watching her with those intense blue eyes. "Yes, I'm taking it. Later, in the hospital cafeteria, Camille confronted Ethan. "You didn't have to do that for Marcus." "I wanted to." He touched her hand lightly. "Camille, these past few weeks have shown me what really matters. My brother tried to kill me because all he cared about was money and power. But you risked everything to help a stranger because it was right." Their eyes met, and that now familiar electricity crackled between them. But before either could speak, Ethan's phone buzzed. "The board wants an emergency meeting." He sighed. "We need to go." The company headquarters was swarming with reporters. Security had to clear a path for them to reach the elevator. Inside the boardroom, the remaining board members looked nervous. "Ethan," Richard Porter began, "in light of recent events, we need to discuss the future of Cole Enterprises." "You mean now that we know half the board was trying to kill me?" Ethan's voice was cold. "We had no idea what James and Victoria were planning," another board member protested. "Really?" Camille spoke up. "Because our investigation found some interesting emails." The room went silent. Ethan smiled slightly and pulled out a folder. "Let's talk about who knew what, shall we?" By the end of the meeting, 3 more board members had resigned. As they left, Porter stopped in front of Camille. "You've caused quite a stir," he said. "Some people are saying you planned this whole thing to get close to Ethan." "That's enough," Ethan snapped, but Camille put a hand on his arm. "Some people should be more concerned about their own actions than spreading rumors about mine," she said calmly. Back in Ethan's office, he was still fuming. "I'll replace the entire board if I have to." "And who would you trust to replace them?" "Trust you?" He turned to face her. "That's why I want you to be my head of operations. You understand people in a way I never could." "Ethan, I don't have the experience. You have exactly what this company needs. Integrity, compassion, and courage." He stepped closer. "And what I need." The air between them felt charged. They'd been dancing around their feelings since Chicago, both knowing something had changed between them. "People will talk," Camille said softly. "Let them." Ethan's hand came up to cup her cheek. "I don't care what anyone thinks anymore. When James had you in that office in Chicago, I realized something. The thought of losing you terrified me more than losing my company ever could." "Ethan." Her heart was pounding. "I'm falling in love with you, Camille. I think I have been since the moment you risked everything to save my life." Before she could respond, his office door burst open. A woman in designer clothes stormed in, her face furious. "So it's true," she shrieked. "I leave for 1 month in Europe and you replace me with some nobody?" Camille stepped back as if burned. Ethan's face went pale. "Diana," he said, "you're back early." Obviously not early enough. Diana waved a newspaper. "Who is she, Ethan? Our engagement isn't even officially over, and you're already with someone else." Camille felt like the floor had dropped out from under her. "Engagement?" "Former engagement," Ethan said quickly. "Diana, we broke up months ago." "We were taking a break," Diana corrected. "And now I find out you're making this woman your head of operations, the position you promised me." Camille looked between them, her mind spinning. "I should go." "Camille, wait," Ethan started, but she was already walking out the door. She made it to the elevator before the tears started. How could she have been so stupid? Of course, someone like Ethan would have a sophisticated, beautiful fiancé. She was just the nurse who happened to be in the right place at the right time. Her phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. "Please let me explain. It's not what you think." Another buzz. "Diana and I have been over for months. You're the only one I want." But Camille couldn't deal with this right now. She had believed in fairy tales for a moment, the powerful CEO falling for the ordinary girl who saved his life. But reality was crashing in, and it hurt more than she'd expected. As she walked out of the building, reporters shouted questions. "Miss Harris, are you really dating Ethan Cole? Is it true you saved his life? What about his fiancée?" Camille kept walking, head down, heart breaking. She'd survived James's threats and corporate conspiracies, but somehow this hurt more. Because this time it wasn't just her life that was complicated, it was her heart. Camille spent the next 3 days avoiding Ethan's calls and texts. She went to work, sat through meetings and did her job, but kept her distance. Every time, She saw him. Her heart ached with the memory of Diana's words. Our engagement isn't even officially over. On the fourth day, she arrived at the office to find a newspaper on her desk. The headline made her stomach drop. Cole Enterprises drama, CEO caught between socialite fiancé and employee. The article was full of inside sources claiming she'd seduced Ethan to gain power in the company. There were photos of Diana at charity events, looking stunning in designer gowns. Next to them was the grainy photo of Camille at the gala, making her look plain and ordinary in comparison. Don't. Read that trash? Camille looked up to find Ethan standing in her doorway. He looked tired, like he hadn't been sleeping well. It's hard not to when it's everywhere, she said quietly. Camille, please, let me explain about Diana. There's nothing to explain. You had a life before I came along, I understand. No, you don't. He closed her office door. Diana and I grew up in the same social circle. Everyone expected us to get married. It was like a business merger more than a relationship. Then why did you stay with her? Because it was easy. Expected, but I was miserable. He ran a hand through his hair. 3 months ago, before the gala, I ended it. Diana didn't take it well. She went to Europe, telling everyone we were on a break instead of admitting it. Was over. Before Camille could respond, her phone rang. It was the hospital. Miss Harris, a nurse said, you need to come right away. Something's wrong with your brother. Camille's world tilted. What happened? He had a bad reaction to his new medication. He's stable, but she was already grabbing her purse. Ethan must have seen the panic on her face because he immediately said, I'll drive you. At the hospital, they found Marcus pale and weak, but awake. The doctor explained that he'd had an allergic reaction to the experimental treatment Ethan had arranged. I'm so sorry, Ethan said once they were alone with Marcus. I never should have pushed this treatment without more testing. It's not your fault, Marcus said. I wanted to try it, but Camille couldn't shake the feeling that everything was falling apart. Her brother was sick, her heart was broken, and the whole city was talking about her like she was some kind of gold digger. I need some air, she mumbled, heading for the door. She ended up in the hospital garden, sitting on a bench in the cold. That's where Diana found her. Well, if it isn't the woman who stole my fiancé. Camille looked up to see Diana standing there in a perfect designer suit, looking like she'd stepped off a magazine cover. I didn't steal anyone, Camille said tiredly. I didn't even know about you. Oh, please. Diana sat down uninvited. You saved his life and wormed your way into his company. It's like a bad movie plot. Why are you here, Diana? To make you an offer. Diana pulled out a check. $1 million to leave Cole Enterprises and never contact Ethan again. Camille stared at the check in disbelief. You can't be serious. Deadly serious. Face it, you don't belong in Ethan's world. You're already causing him problems. The board is questioning his judgment. His reputation is suffering. If you know him so well, Camille said, standing up. Why did you need to buy his love? Diana's perfectly made-up face twisted with anger. She grabbed Camille's arm. Listen, you little... Let her go. They both turned to see Ethan standing there, his face dark with anger. Diana dropped Camille's arm. Darling, I was just... I heard everything, Diana. Ethan's voice was like ice. You're trying to bribe the woman I love to leave, after everything she's done for this company? For me, love. Diana laughed, but it sounded hollow. You've known her for what, a month? We have history, Ethan. History of what? You treating me like a business asset, caring more about social status than actual feelings? He moved to stand beside Camille. What we had wasn't love, Diana. It was a convenient arrangement, but it's over. It's been over for months. You're making a mistake, Diana hissed. The board won't accept her. Society won't accept her. She's nobody. She's everything. Ethan took Camille's hand. And if the board has a problem with that, they can join the others in finding new jobs. Diana stood there for a moment, fury and hurt battling on her face. Then she turned and stormed away, her heels clicking on the pavement. I'm sorry, Ethan said softly to Camille. I should have told you about her right away. Why didn't you? Because when I'm with you, I forget about that whole world, the society parties, the fake relationships, all of it. He touched her cheek gently. You make me feel real, Camille, and that terrifies me as much as it thrills me. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. You should have taken the money. Now you'll lose everything. Ethan read the message over her shoulder, his face hardening. Diana. You don't know that. Trust me, I know how she operates. He pulled out his own phone. I'm calling security. If she's working with anyone who's still loyal to James, you think she'd hurt Marcus? Camille's voice shook. I think she's desperate and angry, and people like that are dangerous. He squeezed her hand. But I won't let anything happen to you or Marcus. I promise. As they walked back to Marcus's room, Camille felt torn. Her heart wanted to believe in Ethan, in their love. But Diana's words echoed in her head. Did she really belong in his world, or was she just causing him more problems? Looking at their joined hands, she realized something. It didn't matter what society thought. What mattered was how she felt when she was with him, safe, strong, loved. But as they reached Marcus's room, she couldn't shake the feeling that Diana's threat was more than just angry words. Something told her their troubles were far from over. The next morning, Camille woke, up to her phone ringing. It was the hospital again, but this time the news was good. Marcus was feeling better and responding well to his adjusted medication. You should have seen the breakfast they brought me, Marcus told her when she visited. Way fancier than usual. Hospital food. I think your boyfriend pulled some strings. He's not my boyfriend, Camille said automatically, but she couldn't help smiling. Ethan had been calling the hospital twice a day to check on Marcus. Could have fooled me, Marcus grinned. Did you see today's paper? You're officially New York's hottest gossip. He held up a society magazine. The cover showed a split image. Diana at a charity ball in a stunning red dress and Camille leaving the hospital yesterday, holding Ethan's hand. Cole chooses nurse over socialite, the headline declared. At least they got my job right, Camille sighed. Her phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. Turn on the news now. Camille grabbed the remote and switched on the small hospital room TV. Diana's face filled the screen. She was standing outside Cole Enterprises, surrounded by reporters. I'm concerned about the company, Diana was saying, tears in her eyes. First the scandal with James, and now Ethan's making rash decisions. This woman he's involved with. Did anyone check her background? Her brother's expensive medical treatment started right after she met Ethan. Isn't that suspicious? Camille felt sick. Diana was implying she'd orchestrated everything, saving Ethan's life, exposing James, just to get money for Marcus's treatment. She's really playing dirty, Marcus said quietly. Camille's phone rang again. This time it was Richard Porter, the board chairman. Miss Harris, he said coldly, we need to discuss these allegations. The board is meeting in an hour. When Camille arrived at the office, reporters swarmed her car. Security had to form a barrier so she could get inside. She found Ethan waiting by the elevator, looking furious. Diana's gone too far, he said as soon as they were alone. I'm having my lawyers prepare a defamation suit. She's trying to make me look like a gold digger who manipulated you. Nobody who knows you would believe that. But the board doesn't. So me, Camille pointed out, and now they're questioning everything. The boardroom was tense when they walked in. Diana was there, sitting next to Richard Porter with a satisfied smile. Miss Harris, Porter began, serious concerns have been raised about your relationship with Mr. Cole and your role in recent events. You mean my role in stopping his murder? Camille asked quietly. According to whom? Diana cut in. Your word? How convenient that you were there to save him, then end up with a high-paying job and medical care for your brother. That's enough. Ethan's voice cracked like thunder. Diana was James's friend for years. Did anyone check her background? Because I have. He pulled out a folder and threw it on the table. Phone records, he continued. Diana called James 20 times the week before the gala, and she visited him in jail yesterday. The room went silent. Diana's face went pale. That doesn't mean anything, she stammered. James was my friend. And the offshore account you opened 3 days before the gala, Ethan pressed. The one that received $100,000 from one of James's shell companies. Porter picked up the folder, frowning as he read. Miss Wellington, is this true? Diana stood up so fast her chair fell over. You don't understand. James said nobody would get hurt. It was just supposed to scare Ethan into stepping down. When that didn't work, he changed the plan without telling me. Camille felt cold. You knew they were going to poison him. I didn't know they would try to kill him. Diana was crying now, her perfect makeup running. James just said he'd get sick enough to miss some board meetings. Long enough for them to vote him out, that's all. Security, Ethan said calmly. Please escort Miss Wellington to the police. I'm sure they'll be very interested in her connection to the attempt on my life. As Diana was led away, still protesting, Porter cleared his throat. Mr. Cole, Miss Harris, I believe we owe you both an apology. But Camille barely heard him. The room was spinning. Diana had helped plan the attack on Ethan. If Camille hadn't been there that night, she felt Ethan's hand slip into hers under the table, anchoring her. Later, in his office, he held her while she cried. I could have lost you, she whispered. If I hadn't been there, if I hadn't heard those men talking. But you were there, he said softly. You saved my life. And not just at the gala. Every day since then, you've made my life better just by being in it. She looked up at him, seeing the love in his eyes. Even with all the gossip and drama I've brought to your company, especially with that, he smiled. You know what I realized today, watching Diana try to tear you down? That I'm proud to be with someone real, someone who cares about people, not power, someone who makes me want to be better. He reached into his desk drawer and pulled out a small box. Camille's heart stopped. I'm not proposing, he said quickly. Not yet. We've been through too much too fast. But I want you to have this. Inside the box was a beautiful silver key. It's to my house, he explained. I know you've been staying there for security, but I want it to be official. Move in with me, Camille. Let me wake up every morning knowing you're safe. Let me fall asleep every night knowing you're near. Tears filled her eyes again, but this time they were happy tears. Yes, she whispered. Yes. He kissed her then, soft and sweet and full of promise. But their moment was interrupted by Ethan's phone ringing. It was the police. Diana's gone, he said after hanging up. She slipped away from security before they could get her to the station. Camille felt that familiar fear creeping back. She'll come after us. Let her try. Ethan pulled her close. I'm not losing you, Camille. Not to Diana, not to gossip, not to anything. As they stood there in each other's arms, Camille knew he meant it. Whatever Diana was planning, they would face it together. Because their love wasn't built on social status or expectations. It was built on trust, courage, and the kind of connection that only comes when two people save each other in every way. That matters. Moving in with Ethan should have been the happiest time of Camille's life. Instead, she found herself jumping at shadows, checking over her shoulder everywhere she went. Diana was still out there, and her last threat lingered. Now you'll lose everything. The police will find her, Ethan assured her as they unpacked her things in his penthouse. She can't hide forever. I'm not worried about me, Camille said, folding a sweater. I'm worried about Marcus. He's vulnerable in that hospital. I've doubled his security. Nobody gets near his room without being checked. But even Ethan's precautions couldn't stop the whispers. Every day brought new tabloid stories about Diana, how she'd been wronged, how Camille had stolen her fairy tale ending. Some people even suggested Diana was the real victim in all of this. Can you believe these people? Marcus said when Camille visited him. He was getting stronger every day, the new adjusted treatment working better than anyone had hoped. They're acting like Diana's some poor heartbroken princess instead of someone who helped plan your boyfriend's murder. He's not my... Camille started, then smiled. Okay, maybe he is my boyfriend. About time you admitted it. Marcus grinned. Now when are you going to admit you love him? Before Camille could answer, a nurse came in with Marcus's medication. Camille didn't recognize her, but that wasn't unusual. The hospital had a large staff, but something about the way the nurse moved caught Camille's attention. She was keeping her head down, her face partly hidden by her surgical mask. Wait, Camille said, standing up. Let me see your ID badge. The nurse looked up, and Camille's blood ran cold. It was Diana. Hello, Camille. Diana smiled, pulling a syringe from her pocket. Miss me? Security! Camille shouted, lunging for the call button, Diana was faster. She grabbed Marcus's arm, pressing the syringe against his skin. One move, and your brother gets something much worse than his regular medication. How did you get in here? Camille's voice shook. Money opens all doors, even in hospitals. Diana's eyes were wild. Now you're going to call Ethan. Tell him to come here alone or your brother dies. Camille's phone was in her purse across the room. Okay, she said carefully. Just don't hurt him. Hurt him? Oh, honey. Diana laughed. I'm going to hurt all of you. Ethan needs to learn what happens when he throws away someone like me for someone like you. Sis, Marcus said quietly. Don't call him, she'll kill him. Shut up. Diana pressed the syringe harder against his arm. He's right, Camille said, her mind racing. You helped plan his murder once. You'll do it again. I told you. I didn't. No, they were going to kill him. Diana's hand shook. James lied to me. He said Ethan would just get sick enough to lose control of the company. And you believed him? Camille took a careful step forward. James tried to kill his own brother for money. What made you think he'd tell you the truth? Something flickered in Diana's eyes, doubt, maybe even guilt. It wasn't supposed to be like this, she whispered. Ethan and I were perfect together. We made sense. Then you came along with your heroics and your kindness. Her voice turned bitter. Do you know what it's like to watch the man you love fall for someone else? If you really loved him, Camille said softly, you wouldn't have helped hurt him. For a moment, Diana seemed to deflate. The syringe lowered slightly. That's when Marcus moved. Despite his weakness, he managed to knock the syringe from Diana's hand. It went flying across the room. Camille tackled Diana just as security burst in, followed by Ethan. Are you okay? He demanded, helping Camille up, while security restrained Diana. The nurse at the station realized something was wrong when she saw an unauthorized entry in the medication log. We're okay, Camille said, hugging Marcus. We're both okay. Diana laughed as the police led her away. You think this is over? James has other friends. More powerful friends. This isn't over. Later that night, after the police had taken their statements and Marcus had finally fallen asleep, Camille stood at the window of Ethan's penthouse, looking out at the city lights. Penny, for your thoughts. Ethan came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. Diana was right about one thing, Camille said quietly. We don't make sense on paper. The nurse and the billionaire. It's like a bad romance novel. Hey, Ethan turned her to face him. What makes sense is how I feel when I'm with you. What makes sense is how you saw the real me from the start. Not the CEO, not the society figure, just me. Even with all the danger I've brought to your life? You didn't bring the danger. James and Diana did that. You brought the light. He touched her cheek gently. You know what I thought when I saw you tackle Diana today? That I'm crazy. That I love you. His blue eyes were intense. I love your bravery, your heart, the way you protect the people you care about. I love that you make me want to be worthy of you. Camille's heart stopped. They hadn't said those words yet, even though they'd both felt them. I love you too, she whispered, even when it scares me how much. He kissed her then, soft and sweet at first, then deeper, like he was trying to prove how real this was. Their love, their connection, their future together. When they finally broke apart, Ethan pressed his forehead to hers. Move Marcus here, he said suddenly. What? The penthouse has plenty of room. He can recover here with round-the-clock nursing care. He'll be safer and you won't have to worry so much. Ethan, tears filled her eyes. You'd do that? I'd do anything for you, he smiled. Both of you are my family now, and family protects each other. As they stood there in the moonlight, holding each other close, Camille thought about how much her life had changed since that night at the gala. She'd walked into danger and found love. She'd faced betrayal and found strength she never knew she had, but Diana's final warning echoed in her mind. James has other friends. Something told her their story wasn't over yet. There were more shadows to face, more battles to fight. But looking up at Ethan, seeing the love and determination in his eyes, she knew one thing for certain. Whatever came next, they would face it together. Marcus settled into life at the penthouse quickly. charming the private nurses and making the place feel more like a home than it ever had. Camille loved watching him and Ethan bond over basketball games and bad action movies, the two most important men in her life, becoming real family. "You know," Marcus said one evening while Ethan was taking a business call, "I haven't seen you this happy since before Mom and Dad died." Camille smiled, adjusting his pillows on the living room couch. "I am happy. Even with everything that's happened, I'm really happy." "Good. Because Ethan asked for my blessing yesterday." Camille dropped the pillow. "He what?" "Asked for my blessing. You know, to marry you." Marcus grinned. "Don't worry, I made him sweat a little before I said yes. He wants to marry me?" "Why? Do you sound so surprised? The man looks at you like you hung the moon." Before Camille could respond, Ethan came back into the room, his face serious. "That was the prison. James wants to talk to us." The happiness Camille had been feeling evaporated. "Why?" "He says he has information about other people involved in the attempt on my life. People more powerful than him or Diana?" "It could be a trap," Camille said. "Probably is," Ethan agreed. "But if there are still people out there who want me dead, I need to know who they are." The next morning, they drove to the prison together. James looked smaller somehow in his orange jumpsuit, his usual confidence gone. "Little brother," he said when they sat down, "and the lovely Camille, thank you for coming." "What do you want, James?" Ethan's voice was cold. "To warn you." James leaned forward. "You think you know everything about what happened? You don't know anything. Diana and I were just the beginning." "What are you talking about? Why do you think the board was so eager to get rid of you?" James smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Your environmental initiatives, your worker benefits, you were costing certain people a lot of money, people who prefer to stay in the shadows." "Give me names," Ethan demanded. "Not yet. First, I want a deal. Reduced sentence, better conditions. You tried to kill him," Camille cut in. "You don't deserve any deals." "Maybe not. But you need what I know." James sat back. "Did you ever wonder why Father left half the company to Ethan instead of me? His firstborn son." "Because he knew you were corrupt," Ethan said. "No, because he was protecting something. Something hidden in the company records that could destroy everything." James's eyes glittered. "Want to know what it is?" Before Ethan could answer, a guard came in. "Time's up." "Think about it, little brother," James called as they left. "The answers are in Father's old files, if you can find them before they do." In the car, Ethan was quiet, lost in thought. "You don't believe him, do you?" Camille asked. "James is a liar," Ethan said slowly. "But he seemed scared. And if there really are people pulling strings behind the scenes, then we need to find those files." They spent the next day searching Ethan's father's old office, which had been preserved, exactly as he'd left it after his death 5 years ago. "Look at this," Camille said, pulling out a dusty folder. "Environmental impact reports from 20 years ago. They show toxic waste dumping at some of the company's old factories." "That was before my time," Ethan said, reading over her shoulder. "But these numbers, they're massive. If this got out, it would destroy the company, not just the company. Look at the other names listed here. Government officials, other corporations. This goes way beyond coal enterprises." Suddenly, the lights went out. They heard footsteps in the hallway outside. "Security should be here," Ethan whispered, pulling. Camille behind his father's desk. The door opened slowly. 3 men in black entered, guns drawn. "The files," one of them said. "Where are they?" "Who sent you?" Ethan demanded, keeping Camille behind him. "People who've kept these secrets buried for 20 years. People who won't let some bleeding heart CEO expose them now." "If you kill us, the files go public," Camille said quickly. "We've made arrangements." The man laughed. "You're bluffing. You just found them." "But I had time to take pictures," she said, holding up her phone, "and set them to send automatically if anything happens to us." The men hesitated. Camille's heart was pounding so hard she was sure they could hear it. Suddenly, there was a commotion in the hallway. "Police! Drop your weapons!" The next few minutes were chaos, gunshots, shouting, the sound of running feet. When it was over, 2 of the men were in custody. One had escaped. "How did you know to come?" Camille asked the police captain. Anonymous tip, he said. Someone called saying you were in danger. Later, back at the penthouse, Camille was still shaking. James knew they'd come after us. That's why he told us about the files. He wanted us to find them so they'd target us instead of him. Ethan pulled her close. I'm so sorry, Camille. I've brought nothing but danger into your life. No. She touched his face gently. You've brought love. Everything else, we'll face it together. He took her, hands in his. Marry me. What? I had this whole plan. Romantic dinner, ring hidden in dessert. But after today, I don't want to wait. I love you, Camille Harris. Marry me. Tears filled her eyes. Marcus told me you asked for his blessing. Did, because he's your family, and I want us all to be a real family. He pulled out a small velvet box. I've been carrying this around for weeks, waiting for the perfect moment, but every moment with you is perfect. Inside the box was a stunning diamond ring, elegant but not flashy, exactly her style. Yes, she whispered. Of course, yes. As he slipped the ring on her finger and kissed her, Camille knew their troubles weren't over. Someone was still out. There, someone powerful enough to want these secrets kept buried. But looking at her ring, at the man she loved, at the life they were building together, she wasn't afraid anymore. They'd faced murder attempts, betrayal, and corporate conspiracies. They could face anything else that came their way, because their love wasn't just about romance. It was about trust, courage, and believing in each other when the whole world seemed dark. It was about building something real and lasting from the ruins of betrayal, and no shadow from the past could dim that kind of love. 2 weeks after finding the files, Camille stood in front of a mirror, adjusting her wedding dress. She hadn't wanted a big ceremony, but Ethan had insisted on making their day special. You deserve a fairy tale, he'd said, even if we're having it in a secure location with armed guards. The garden venue was beautiful, transformed into a wonderland of white flowers and twinkling lights. Security teams patrolled the perimeter, making sure no uninvited guests could get in. You look beautiful, Marcus said from his wheelchair. He was finally strong enough to be out of bed for long periods, and he'd insisted on walking his sister down the aisle, even if he needed the chair to get there. I just wish this was all over, Camille sighed. The investigation, the threats. Hey, Marcus took her hand. Don't let them ruin your day. You and Ethan deserve this happiness. The past 2 weeks had been intense. After the attack in Ethan's father's office, they'd turned the files over to federal investigators. The evidence of corruption and toxic waste dumping had implicated dozens of powerful people, politicians, business leaders, even judges. James had been right about one thing. The truth had been buried for 20 years, but now it was all coming to light. Miss Harris, a security guard appeared at the door. We're ready for you. The garden was filled with their closest friends and the few board members who had proven their loyalty. Ethan stood at the altar, looking handsome in his tuxedo, his eyes shining when he saw her. Marcus wheeled himself slowly down the aisle, Camille walking beside him with her hand on his shoulder. When they reached Ethan, Marcus took their hands and joined them together. Take care of each other, he said softly. The ceremony was beautiful in its simplicity. They had written their own vows, speaking from their hearts about the love that had grown from that first brave moment at the gala. Camille, Ethan said, his voice thick with emotion, you didn't just save my life that night. You showed me what real courage looks like, what real love looks like. I promise to spend the rest of my life being worthy of your brave heart. Ethan, Camille replied, tears in her eyes, you taught me that sometimes the scariest choices lead to the most beautiful destinations. I promise to face whatever comes next by your side always. But just as they were about to say I do, shots rang out in the distance. Everyone down. Security guards rushed forward as chaos erupted. Through the panicked crowd, Camille saw them. 3 men in black, the same ones who had attacked them in the office, and with them was someone she hadn't expected, Richard Porter, the board chairman. You couldn't leave it alone, could you, Ethan? Porter called out, holding a gun. Had to dig up the past. It was you, Ethan said, keeping Camille behind him. You were the one protecting the secret all these years. Someone had to. Your father understood the importance of keeping certain things buried. But you... Porter's face twisted with disgust. You and your noble ideas about corporate responsibility? You're weak, just like this woman has. Made you weak. No. Camille stepped forward, still in her wedding dress. Love doesn't make people weak. It makes them stronger than you'll ever understand. More shots fired. Security guards engaged with Porter's men. In the chaos, Porter aimed his gun directly at Ethan, but before he could pull the trigger, Marcus, who had wheeled himself around during the confusion, slammed his chair into Porter's legs. The gun went flying. Police sirens wailed in the distance. Porter and his men tried to run, but they were surrounded. Within minutes, it was over. "Are you okay?" Ethan asked Camille, holding her tight. "My wedding dress is ruined," she said with a shaky laugh. "But you're still the most beautiful bride I've ever seen." Marcus rolled up to them, grinning. "So, are we going to finish this ceremony or what?" The guests slowly emerged from their hiding places. The garden was a mess of scattered flowers and overturned chairs, but no one had been seriously hurt. The minister, who had taken cover behind a pillar, straightened his collar. "Shall we continue?" This time, when they said "I do," nothing interrupted them. Their kiss was sweet and perfect, even with police lights flashing in the background. Later that night, after giving their statements to the police and changing into comfortable clothes, they sat in the penthouse with Marcus watching the news. Porter's arrest was the top story, along with the exposure of the toxic waste scandal. 20 years of corruption finally exposed, Ethan said, holding Camille close on the couch. "My father tried to protect the company by keeping it secret. I'll protect it by making it better." "We'll make it better," Camille corrected him. "Together." "You know," Marcus said thoughtfully, "most people just have a nice quiet wedding. But you two, you had to add a dramatic gunfight and the takedown of a massive corporate conspiracy." They all laughed, the tension of the day finally breaking. "What? Do you say we take a long honeymoon?" Ethan asked Camille. "Somewhere quiet where no one's trying to kill us?" "Sounds perfect." She snuggled closer to him. "But first, I want a proper wedding dance. We never got to have our first dance as husband and wife." Ethan stood and held out his hand. In the soft light of their living room, with Marcus smiling at them from his chair, they swayed to the music playing softly from the stereo. "I love you, Mrs. Cole," Ethan whispered. "I love you too, Mr. Cole," Camille replied. Gunfights, conspiracies, and all. Looking up at her husband, Camille thought about how far they'd come from that first night at the gala. Their love story hadn't been easy. They'd faced murder attempts, betrayal, family drama, and corporate intrigue. But maybe that's what made it special. Their love hadn't grown in perfect conditions. It had grown through challenges and dangers, proving itself stronger with every test. As they danced in their penthouse high above the city, Camille knew they'd face more challenges. Life with Ethan would never be simple, but she wouldn't have it any other way, because their love wasn't just about romance, it was about courage, trust, and choosing each other every day, no matter what. It was about building something beautiful from moments of danger, about finding light in the darkest places, and as the city lights twinkled beyond their windows, as Marcus watched them with happy tears in his eyes, as Ethan held her close and safe and loved, Camille knew that this was their true happy ending, not because everything was perfect, but because they were perfect for each other. Love had brought them together. Love had given them the strength to face every challenge. And love would guide them forward into whatever adventures awaited them next. Because in the end, love really did conquer all.